In the flashy streets of Lekki Phase 1, Zaddy Badmus was known as the man who never wore the same agbada twice. His perfumes announced him before his words did. His shoes sparkled like wedding rings under the club lights. Zaddy Badmus was 55, but his pockets were young and fresh. Everyone knew him from bouncers at nightclubs to waiters at rooftop lounges. If you were lucky enough to catch his eye, your life could change overnight. But Zaddy Badmus did not share his money for free. He loved baddies who gave him bragging rights among other big men. He needed a girl who turned heads and made other men wish they were him. Lizzie was a pure Lagos baddie, 24, sharp, sugar-sweet but iron-tough inside. She wore Brazilian wigs longer than her patience for broke boys. Her makeup could survive Lagos rain and heartbreak. Lizzie's friend Sandra told her about Zaddy Badmus one night at a Victoria Island lounge. "Lizzie, this man is the father of soft life. Enter his Range Rover once, you'll forget Danfo forever." Lizzie laughed. "Let's see if his money can handle me." They met at a high-end sushi restaurant on Admiralty Road. Zaddy Badmus came in wearing a white senator with gold embroidery. Lizzie came late, on purpose, wearing a red bodycon dress that made the waiters stare. Zaddy Badmus stood up to greet her, a whole sugar Zaddy standing for a girl half his age. "Ah, you are even finer than your pictures. Baby girl." Lizzie smiled politely. In her mind, "Old man, let's see how long you last." They ordered food Lizzie couldn't pronounce. She poked at it with a fork but ate only the fried rice. Zaddy Badmus loved Lizzie's bold mouth. She didn't fake shyness like the others. She asked questions about his businesses, complimented his watch, and laughed at his dry jokes. By the next day, she posted a new iPhone on her Instagram story, blessings on blessings. When her followers asked who bought it, she replied with a winking emoji. Weeks passed. Zaddy Badmus flew Lizzie to Abuja for business. She posed by hotel pools with cocktails she never paid for. Back in Lagos, she told her circle, "Soft life is my birthright." But Lizzie was smart. She never trusted Zaddy Badmus fully. She never let him come to her real hostel. She only met him at hotels or restaurants. No sleepovers her rule. What Lizzie didn't know was that Zaddy Badmus had secrets. He was married to Madam Stella, a businesswoman who owned half the shops on the mainland. Madam Stella controlled the real family money. Zaddy Badmus only got big allowances to flex small girls so he wouldn't disturb her peace. Zaddy Badmus lied to Lizzie, saying, "I'm divorced. My ex-wife is abroad. I'm free like Lagos traffic at 2 a.m. One night, Lizzie borrowed Zaddy Badmus's phone to order shawarma. A message popped up, "Madam Stella, where did you drop the car keys? Call me." Lizzie's eye twitched. She didn't show her anger. She put the phone down and gave him his food. When she got home, she blocked him for 3 days. Zaddy Badmus panicked. He sent flowers. He sent 200k airtime. He sent new wigs. Lizzie unblocked him, but now she knew the truth. He's not a free man. Lizzie decided, if you're married, then you must pay premium. She made Zaddy Badmus buy her a new iPad, paid for her driving lessons, and sponsored her business, a small boutique in Yaba that sold imported clothes. Zaddy Badmus was too distracted to notice the boutique mostly sold to Lizzie's cousins at a discount. Madam Stella was not blind. She had spies everywhere. One day, her junior cousin saw Lizzie at a spa, bragging, "My Zaddy is paying for all this." That night, Madam Stella checked her husband's phone while he snored. She saw the transactions. She smiled coldly. She didn't fight Zaddy Badmus. She found Lizzie's boutique instead. One afternoon, Lizzie sat at her boutique counter doing TikToks when a woman in rich lace walked in. It was Madam Stella. "Good afternoon, Ma," Lizzie said, not knowing who she was. Stella looked around, touched a dress, then dropped her card on the table. "Return every kobo my husband gave you, or I'll shut this shop and your life down." Lizzie stammered, "Ma, I don't understand." Stella pointed at her face. "Don't ma me. I built him. I can unbuild you." She walked out, her perfume lingering like judgment. Zaddy Badmus heard the news the next day. He begged Lizzie, "Don't mind her. She just wants to embarrass me." But Lizzie knew Madam Stella was powerful. If she wanted, she could call the police and seize everything. So Lizzie did what Lagos baddies do best: she ran first. Lizzie withdrew her boutique money, sold most of her stock online overnight, packed her wigs, and fled to stay with Sandra in Ajah. Zaddy Badmus called and called. Lizzie ignored him. Madam Stella shut down the shop legally. She owned the building through a shell company. Lizzie watched her big soft life collapse on Instagram stories, all the outfits, the dinners, the fake Dubai trips. Gone. Zaddy Badmus's wife seized his extra car too. He went back to begging Madam Stella, promising he'd never touch small girls again. Lizzie sat in Sandra's tiny apartment, licking her wounds. She was broke again but wiser. She went online and posted, "If the Zaddy is married, you are on borrowed time. Play wisely." Zaddy Badmus crawled back to Madam Stella, who forgave him but cut his allowance by half. He became a house husband, managing her shops while she traveled abroad. Lizzie found a new hustle. She registered her business properly this time, opened an online thrift store, and told herself, "If I want soft life, I must build it with my own hands." Lizzie, hiding out at Sandra's tiny Ajah apartment, realized her soft life had ended, but she was too sharp to sit quietly. One evening, while scrolling Instagram, she saw another hot baddie posting gifts, new bag, new shoes, new nails, all tagged #Zadalife. Liz's eyes narrowed. She zoomed in on the photo. The Range Rover plate was familiar. It was Zaddy Badmus's car. So this old man didn't learn? Lizzie hissed. The new girl's name was Nancy, an up-and-coming influencer with over 40,000 followers. Lizzie slid into her DMs immediately. "Sis, this man will finish you. Let's talk." At first, Nancy ignored her. But curiosity got the better of her. They met at a cafe in Sangotado. Lizzie came prepared. She brought screenshots, old receipts, and embarrassing voice notes from Zaddy Badmus begging her to come back home. Nancy's eyes widened. She laughed. "Abeg, I thought this man was a big boy. He was acting single. The two girls formed an instant alliance. They didn't want love anymore, they wanted payback and payout. Nancy, pretending to still be sweet and loyal, arranged a dinner date with Zaddy Badmus at a hidden Chinese restaurant in Lekki. She dressed to kill, black silk gown, soft perfume, sweet giggle. Zaddy Badmus was so carried away that he spilled secrets, his side businesses, the hidden cash stash, his fake invoices to Madam Stella, everything. What he didn't know was that Nancy's phone was recording under the table. 3 days later, Madam Stella received a small brown envelope at her office gate. Inside was a flash drive with Zaddy Badmus's sweet confessions, how he kept extra cash from her shop rentals, how he gave fake invoices to buy more gifts for his baddies. When she finished listening, she didn't shout. She didn't even cry. She just called her lawyer. At 2 a.m., Zaddy Badmus woke up to find his house surrounded by private security men hired by Madam Stella. She didn't bother using police. She owned real muscle. They seized his phone, his car keys, his laptop, and handed him an envelope. "Dear husband, you have 2 choices. Sign over the company and my money stays your protection, or fight me and lose it all publicly." Zaddy Badmus begged. "Baby, I can explain." Madam Stella just yawned. "The same way you explain to small girls." He signed. Lizzie and Nancy got a small thank you gift. Madam Stella wired them both enough to disappear $500,000 each just to clear the mess and vanish. Nancy used hers to upgrade her influencer brand. Lizzie used hers to finally start an online thrift store properly, no more fake boutique fronts. Zaddy Badmus, stripped of power, moved back to his late mother's old house in Mo. His big Range Rover. Gone. His fancy watches. Pawned to pay hush money. His bragging rights. Dead. His old friends quietly blocked him from group hangouts. Nobody wanted to be seen with the man who lost everything to baddies. Months later, Liz's thrift store page blew up. She started doing real talk videos. "Ladies, learn from my scars. The sugar is sweet but the salt of shame lasts longer." Girls in her DMs thanked her for showing the real truth. She turned her old shame into profit, got real clients, real sponsors, and real brand deals. With her husband's foolishness out of the way, Madam Stella invested in more properties and even sponsored a women's support group. She made herself the lesson for other wives. If your man wants to play Zaddy, you must play CEO. One random Sunday, Zaddy Badmus saw Liz's video on TikTok while charging his old phone at a neighbor's house. She was telling thousands of viewers, "If you think a sugar zaddy will change your life forever, remember the real power is when you can buy your own bag, drive your own car, and never beg anyone for data." Zaddy sighed. He turned off the phone. He looked at the dusty room around him. He whispered to himself, "Ah, soft life don't finish." After months in hiding, Zaddy Badmus couldn't stand the disgrace anymore. He called an old friend, Pastor K.B., who ran a small church but knew plenty of powerful men. Zaddy begged him, "Pastor, help me bounce back. I'm tired of being broke and hiding." Pastor K.B. agreed, but Pastor K.B. was not clean either. He introduced Zaddy to a miracle land scheme. They planned to sell empty plots on the outskirts of Lagos to desperate families. Zaddy would pretend to be the chief land consultant back in his agbada and dark shades, moving like a big boy again. At first, the plan worked. They sold fake plots to 20 people. The money poured in. Zaddy felt young again. He bought a new suit, posted old pictures of himself with celebrities, and tried to rewrite his reputation. But Lagos is small. One of the buyers turned out to be Liz's cousin, the same cousin who used to model for Liz's thrift store. When he found out who signed his fake land papers, he called Lizzie immediately. Lizzie didn't shout. She didn't curse. She smiled, typed up a story thread, and posted it online. "Remember that sugar Zaddy who lost everything? He's now selling ghost land. Be careful. Share this till it reaches your family group chat." The post went viral in hours. Radio stations picked it up. Pastor K.B. vanished the next day. Zaddy Badmus was left alone to answer angry calls from buyers banging on his old gate. Madam Stella saw the news too. She was done with him but refused to let her name get dragged. She called the same private security men and made sure every newspaper knew, "I, Stella Badmus, have nothing to do with that man's crimes. May he face what he planted." It didn't take long. The police came. Zaddy Badmus was picked up from a roadside booker where he was eating pepper soup alone. He didn't even struggle, the swagger was gone. He sat in the back of the police van quietly, looking at Lagos traffic one last time like it was an old lover. Liz's thrift business boomed after the exposure story. Brands sponsored her live videos. She now sat on panels, warning young girls not to fall for quick sugar, not because she hated soft life, but because she learned to build it herself. Nancy, the second baddie, got smarter too. She invested in a small skincare brand and rebranded her page to Boss Baddie Build Your Own Bag. They weren't saints, but they knew Lagos well enough now to hustle clean. In prison, Zaddy Badmus sat on a plastic bench, surrounded by young boys who didn't know or care about his glory days. They called him chairman sarcastically and asked for his food ration. He sometimes saw gossip blogs on the prison TV stories about new baddies. Fresh scandals, new zaddies rising in Lekki. He would sigh and say to himself, "This city will never run dry of sugar and baddies. Only the wise survive." Madam Stella went on to run her real estate empire with fresh pride. She built a women's foundation that secretly funded single mothers, small businesses, and scholarships for girls. Some people called her cold, but the smart ones called her Queen Mother of Sense. At a big event, Lizzie was asked, "If you could go back, would you avoid Zaddy Badmus?" She smiled at the crowd, microphone in hand, lashes fluttering, wig laid to perfection. "No. He was my biggest lesson. Sometimes life gives you sugar to wake you up. Now I'm the one giving myself honey because honey is mine forever." The hall clapped. Cameras flashed. Lizzie walked off stage like the baddie that learned, survived, and owned her story. Inside Kirikiri, Zaddy Badmus made a new friend, Marzi Bruno, an old fraud kingpin who had run phone card scams in the early 2000s. Marzi Bruno saw Zaddy's downfall as entertainment. "Ah, ogre Zaddy," Bruno would tease. "You wee fine boy, now you day chop beans with us." But Marzi Bruno was not just a talker. He still had connections on the outside. He whispered a plan to Zaddy at night. "If you want freedom and fresh cash, I get boys, we go run something for us. You just play big man from here." Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, people began getting calls. A sweet, deep voice would say, "Hello sir, this is Chief Badmus from Lagos State Special Land Recovery Unit. Your seized land can be processed again, just send small processing fee." It worked. Dozens fell for it. Nobody knew the voice was Marzi Bruno's boys, calling from old MTN SIMs bought with fake IDs. And behind the scenes, Zaddy Badmus's name was being used to trick people again. One afternoon, Liz's lawyer friend, Barrister Dozy, called her, "Babe, guess who's moving fraud again from prison? Your ex-Zaddy. They're using his name to run a land refund scam." Lizzie laughed so hard she nearly dropped her phone. That man's disgrace is taller than Third Mainland Bridge. But Lizzie wasn't laughing for long. She knew people would blame her too if the story went public. "Isn't this your old Zaddy? Maybe you helped him?" She couldn't let that stain her new brand. Nancy, now a mini celeb with her skincare brand, also heard the gist. She DM'd Lizzie, "See your ogre still moving mad. Should we finish him this time for good?" Lizzie agreed. "This is the final burial. Let's finish him once and for all." The two baddies joined forces for the last time. They gathered screenshots, fake calls, WhatsApp voice notes. They wrote a giant thread on social media titled, "How One Lagos Zaddy Refused to Learn and Why Greed Will Finish You." They didn't just gist, they named the new scam, the fake numbers, the fake bank account. They even tagged the police and EFCC in the post. Inside Kirikiri, Marzi Bruno laughed when he heard, "Zaddy, see as your girls scatter you again. These small girls no day loyal oh." This time, there was no hush money to pay. The prison warden got involved. Marzi Bruno got transferred to a high-security block. Zaddy Badmus lost his privileges, no more special food, no more secret calls. He was finally just another prisoner, stripped of all his illusions. Outside, Liz's page exploded. People called her brave for exposing a fraud from behind bars. Brands loved her more. Nancy's skincare business sold out because people wanted to support the baddie who fights back. Their final handshake, no more Zaddies. "We run our own money now." Far away, Madame Stella sipped chilled juice in Dubai, scrolling through the news on her iPad. She smirked at the headline, "Fraud Zaddy Loses All Women Expose Secret Land Scam." She clicked her tongue. He wanted to play games. Now he's playing alone. She texted her lawyer to keep her properties locked tight. Lagos men could chase girls, she'd chase real assets. Months later, Lizzie hosted a live QA for her fans. One girl asked, "Would you ever date another sugar zaddy if you find one?" Lizzie grinned. "Maybe if he's single, honest, and signs an NDA. But truth is, why chase sugar when you can plant honey?" Her followers flooded her with laughing emojis and shares. In the small prison cell, Zaddy Badmus lay awake. He stared at the dark ceiling, replaying all the sweet dinners, the hotel suites, the fancy cars all gone. He whispered to himself, voice cracked and tired, "Lagos girls you know win." Outside his cell, the guard switched off the corridor light. Nobody cared about Zaddy Badmus anymore.